Hey everyone, welcome to the E2 Effective Elders podcast. E2 is devoted to coaching your elder team to win by providing biblical and practical resources in authentic relationships. E2 wants nothing more than to equip you to move God's kingdom forward in the place you're serving Jesus. Visit us at e2elders.org and please share this good word with others.
Hey, folks, thanks for joining us for our E2 podcast. We're so very grateful to CDF Capital for making the podcast possible. Thanks, CDF. And today we want to welcome in this moment Mike Mack. And Mike is a longtime friend of E2. As a matter of fact, Mike is the editor of the Christian Standard, and he has invited us to write a column in every issue. And we thank you, Mike, for making that opportunity available to us. It means a lot to us. And Mike, we're so very grateful. You've been a leader in our movement for many, many years. You have a heart for discipleship. You have a heart for leadership. And now, in this moment, we want to ask you for a strong word, a challenge for elders, for life after COVID. What would you urge us to do when the light goes green and we go back?
Now, thanks, Gary. Thanks for the introduction. And it really is a pleasure to work with all of you with E2 and Christian Standard Media, and just the partnership that we have for the kingdom is awesome. And so thank you for letting me be a part of this. One of the things that I've noticed over especially the last several days, is how leaders in the marketplace, government leaders, educational leaders are talking about a couple different things. In fact, they're asking questions, and I think it's important for us as leaders to not only ask questions, but ask the right questions. So a couple of questions that I've noticed that they're asking is, first of all, what lessons have we learned looking over the last several weeks? What are the lessons that we've learned from this crisis that we've all gone through together? And the second one kind of is related to that. What's the new normal? What's the new normal going to look like in our schools and in our government and in all of our institutions? And more importantly for us, what's the new normal for the church? What's the new normal for leaders in the church? And I think it's interesting for us to think about now. We have lots of opportunities, even though we've gone through, and we're still going through some difficulties in our country and even in our churches. There are all kinds of opportunities. It's interesting to me. I was reading, I've been reading through the book of Acts, and I'm just a few chapters in. And one of the things you'll notice if you read the book of Acts, and I hope that we're all reading the you notice that in the first chapter of Acts, there's 120. There's 120 of them gathered there in the upper room. And then very quickly in chapter 2, we see 3,000 are added to their number. And then at the end of chapter 2, I've got an insulin pump here that is beeping at me at the most inconvenient time, so I'm going to turn that off. And at the end of chapter 2, we know what it says. Verse 47 says, the Lord added to their number daily those who are being saved. You get to, I was in chapter 4 this morning, beginning of chapter 4, I believe, it says 5,000. So we've gone from, we've gone from 3,000 to 5,000, and that's 5 men, 5,000 men. So that means well over 10 probably people who are now part of this very, very young church. And throughout the rest of the book of Acts, we see constant updates from Luke, who wrote the book of Acts, about how the church was doing and how that God was adding to their numbers just constantly. Chapter after chapter, we see this happening. And we see Jesus, the fulfillment of Jesus' promises coming true. That the church is moving from Jerusalem out to Judea and to Samaria and to the ends of the earth. And, something that we can just celebrate. And it just got me thinking this morning as I was reading this about this whole COVID-19 thing. And, we've been talking about flattening the curve, right? We don't want this virus to spread quickly. We want to slow down the spread of this thing. We know it's going to spread, but we want to slow it down and flatten the curve. Well, if you look at the curve of the growth of the church in the book of Acts, it was anything but flattened.
Right.
It was up and to the right, and they were adding through the power of the Holy Spirit and through their boldness, they were adding people to the church constantly.
Right.
This thing was contagious. It was growing like crazy. And what really is appealing to me as well is how easily it seems like the gospel was spreading.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was being caught by people
right. Mm-hmm.
quite easily. And as we are now coming out of the last several weeks where most of our churches have not been able to meet in person, and now we might be preparing to the place where we might be able to start meeting in person again, and that is such a great thing. But what I wonder is how much we can. What I want us to remember the gift that we've been given, and not take that for granted. Mm-hmm. So we have all kinds of opportunities, as I said before. It's all kinds of gifts. One of those is that we recognize just how short life can be, mm-hmm. and how uncertain it can be. Mm-hmm. And we have this opportunity to take the gospel, and we've got to be bold with it.
Yes.
Like right now, we've got to take advantage of the opportunity, because I think that's still on people's mind. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We need to be teaching our people mm-hmm. how to share the gospel with mm-hmm. their family members and their coworkers, yes. when they start going back to work, to be able to share the gospel boldly mm-hmm. with people around them. I think another thing that I've noticed over the last several weeks is how much some of the New Testament patterns have been being lived out in our churches, yeah. mm-hmm. really in our homes, mm-hmm. amongst Christians everywhere, where the priesthood of all believers is in actuality. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're becoming more and more ministers of reconciliation, as 2 mm-hmm. Corinthians 5 says.
Right.
We're seeing that. We're seeing people loving their neighbors and serving their neighbors and so many different things. We're using technology to make yep. that happen. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I really hope for our churches is that maybe some of them have started to use technology. Mm-hmm. They're starting to maybe stream their services or use Facebook Live or a variety mm-hmm. of other things, just because they've had to.
Right.
The necessity mm-hmm. of invention, right? Mm-hmm. But going forward, I hope they continue to use those technologies. Mm-hmm. And here's a couple reasons why, really quickly. First of all, we are reaching some people that we've never been able to reach before right. through mm-hmm. these technologies. Mm-hmm. Reach people in prisons. We can reach shut-ins. We can reach all kinds of other people who cannot get to church on a right. Sunday morning through mm-hmm. these technologies. We ought to continue to do that. Mm-hmm. The other thing, we found out in our March issue, which was all about technology. So, by the way, if mm-hmm. you haven't read the March issue, go back and get it. It's free on our website, mm-hmm. and it's all about technology. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we found out there was that people these days check out churches first online. Mm-hmm. They go to your website, yep. mm-hmm. they go to your Facebook page, and they also, if you do have a live stream, they'll check that out before mm-hmm. ever set foot in the doors of your church. So you can reach people and let them see who you are and what you're about mm-hmm. long before they ever show up at church. So continue to use those mm-hmm. technologies
right.
as well. Mm-hmm. You know, as I said before, I just want to really encourage leaders in our churches right now to not only keep going, but to really lean into these lessons you've learned and mm-hmm. this new normal. Mm-hmm. This new normal, it's kind of funny, is because this new normal is not really new, actually.
Right. Uh-huh.
This new normal is really very ancient. It's uh-huh. the New Testament.
Yes.
We're actually getting back to the New Testament church, mm-hmm. and I'm excited about that. So it's really my hope, my prayer, that our churches, our leaders will think in terms of those kinds of questions. Mm-hmm. What is the new normal? Right. And what have we learned through this experience?
Yeah, those the right questions are being asked, and we're looking for good, right responses to that. That's excellent, Mike. When you were talking about the book of Acts, the early church, the churches going house to house and so on, I was talking to a senior leader, a lead minister of one of our partner churches, and this weekend was to be when they had their baptism Sunday. They have a number of those during the year. And so they're thinking outside of the box, and they're calling it BATH, B-A-T-H, Tism Sundays. And they're urging dads to baptize their children when they're ready. They're in the family bathtub. And so they're across their church this weekend, virtually. They hope to be having a number of people buried with Christ, raised to new life in bathtubs in one house after another. So again, what we want to do is bring as many people into the family of God as possible. And thousands of people are engaging worship online. The numbers are incredible. What's happening with people hearing the good news. And you're absolutely right when you talk about, let's leverage this for the purpose of making the good news known. Mm-hmm.
I have the vantage point, as editor of Christian Standard, sometimes of what other churches are doing. Mm-hmm. And just seeing people in our churches getting out and serving their communities has been so good. The minister of the church that I'm a part of, Northeast Louisville, our senior minister said it this way, McKen, we would not have prayed for this, but we were made for this.
Yes.
Yep, we were made for a time like this.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, Mike, thank you very much for the good word. It's a challenging word, and I know that one elder after another will take that to heart, and it's going to make a difference when all is said and done. So thank you very much, and we wish you the best in your ministry. Keep producing a great piece of media for all of us.
Thank you very much, Gary.
You bet. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.